Let's try that one. There we've got audio. I love it when things go perfectly according to plan, and this wouldn't be a codeLive if we didn't have some sort of interesting glitch going on. So let me try that again. Hello, my name is Kevin Poorman, or should I say hello? My name is Kevin Poorman. Today on codeLive, we're going to be working on refactoring and cleaning up some of our previous episodes' work. I've got a few branches where I've done a codeLive episode. We've gone in, we've built out something, but we haven't really given it comments. We haven't tested it fully. We haven't gotten it ready to do a PR. And last week, if you remember, on last week's special edition of Typos with Kevin, we had an issue where we couldn't run a unit test because that unit test had to be done with @CLDataIsTrue. And we couldn't do that because we tried to use platform cache, and platform cache and CLData equals true are mutually exclusive. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a step back in time, 2 or 3 weeks. We're going to work on our dynamic Apex branch to start with, and we're going to flesh out, build out our feature class here such that when we commit this at the end, we'll be able to dynamically enable or disable the class, the platform cache, so that we can still use can the user in our can the user security library during CLData equals true tests. Wow, that was a mouthful. All right, so today we have comments on Trailhead Live, so feel free to log in and type out some great comments, questions, snide remarks. First question we've got today: no vid, no sound, which is hopefully it's not what's happening, but hopefully no vid, no sound is able to hear and see me. And the result is they're asking, is this building email services in Apex with Kevin Poorman? I am Kevin Poorman. However, that episode has been rescheduled. It's 2021. Throw the schedule in the air anyway. So we're going to be doing email services later this year in February. But right now we're going to be working on cleaning up our dynamic Apex and some of our other branches here. So hopefully you can see and hear. But I've got somebody saying yes, sound. Yes, good on both. Okay, no vid, no sound is saying yes, sound, yes, vid, which makes me think their username is confused. Anyway, so let's dive in here. When we last left our heroes, we were working on this feature class. And this feature class is a series of static methods that allow us to determine whether or not a particular platform feature is enabled in this org. Now, I imagine this is particularly useful for ISVs and the like who are trying to look to see if a feature is enabled and use it if it is, otherwise not. So the one we demoed this with was platform cache. And so feature.platformCache is our method. I'm not entirely sure I really like that method. I want to say something along the lines and build a user interface, an API interface, similar to the way we did with can the user. So maybe I want to make this can I use or platform and feature enabled. I'm trying to figure out if I really like the way this is done. I may have to clean it up here a little bit. I'm going to mull on that while we go through this. What we're doing here is we're setting up a scenario that should fail if we don't have platform cache. So get capacity will fail. It will cause us to get the org cache, and we can then return whether or not it's available. Now, this works great for simple things, but what we discovered was even if org cache is enabled, we can't always use it because CLData equals true test classes. So what we need to be able to do is inject into here some way of turning off platform cache even if it's on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a test visible, and I'm going to put in here private static. Let's do platform cache disabled. So if we say platform cache disabled, that's going to be ambiguous as to whether or not we mean it to be on or true or false based on this. Also, I should probably public static Boolean. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna say disable platform cache. disable platform cache, like that. Okay. And I'm going to set it to false. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say return false. Actually, I can't do that. But I have to do it slightly differently. I've been spoiled by working in multiple programming languages today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say if feature, I should put parentheses, feature dot disable platform cache. So if that's true, we're just going to return false. Okay. So what we're, let's do guard statement, always return false, and disable cache when the developer has set this dot disable platform cache equal to true. All right, I think that's fairly intuitive. Let's see if anybody's got any comments here. We've got Raj giving me a smiley face. That's awesome. So we've got this set up here. I've got the private static Boolean. It's test visible. So the only way that this could be disabled in production is if somebody were to disable it here within this class. I like that. That gives me a nice siloed security model. And we're just going to guard against this. I think that is fairly well done. I'm still curious about the naming in the API of it. Does anybody want to throw out an idea on whether or not we should redo this, rename it? Because feature dot platform cache is not terribly descriptive. You know what, we're going to do it. We're going to rename this. Is feature enabled? Has feature? Is feature enabled? Let's do is feature enabled. Okay, what I'm going to do, just to make this easier on things, I'm going to create a new class. Create a new Apex class. I'm going to call this one is feature enabled. Is feature enabled dot platform cache. Yeah, I think that's fairly intuitive. Okay, we're going to put this in a custom directory. Is feature enabled is going to go into, for right now, let's put it in shared code. I reserve the right to move it because I think we're starting to build out a feature set where we could use some like org utilities. So I'm going to just copy pasta all of this. Actually, I'm going to cut pasta. And we're going to put this in is feature enabled. Boom. And we'll save that. So the soundtrack for today, if anybody's curious, the song that's going through my head is Feel Good Inc. While we save here, I'm going to put a comment, description, class contains static methods for determining if specific platform features are enabled here. For example, do we have a working setup? Do we have platform cache enabled? You could also write similar methods for experiences. Experiences. There we go. Spelling is hard. Let's go shopping. Okay. Save that. Let's see. I think that's oh, you know what? Feature.disable platform cache no longer exists. We have to change this to is feature enabled. That'll save. Why do we not like row? Oh, well, that's because it was on the wrong line, on the line before I put the comments in there. Did we fail to save? No, we're still saving. Okay. Still no more comments, questions, or snide remarks. Saving. Save. Okay, look at that. Oh yeah, I switched branch, so it had to delete some other stuff. That's why it took so long. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in here and I'm going to delete this file. Actually, I never know if I can just delete it or if I'm going to have to like. I think I just delete it. Okay, move that to trash. I'm going to move this to the trash as well. Get rid of feature. There we go. And I'm just gonna save this. Are you gonna, okay, good. It's saving. That'll tell us whether or not it got rid of our old feature class, and now we have is feature enabled. Let's look and just make sure we don't have a feature dot. Can the user. All right, so we have got one place where a feature dot is used, and that's going to be a problem. So it did delete that. So now we're going to have a problem if we try to save that. So let's just go ahead and change this to say if or is feature enabled. Save. And this is the crux of it. We tried to use our can the user with the default session cache for storing particular information about the user's ability to create, update, read, delete, all that stuff for user permissions. And we found out that we can't use platform cache in the situation where we are also doing an at CL data is true. So we change can the user, that's saved. So I think we're going to leave this class as it stands. Do we have any unit tests for this? I think we don't have any unit tests, but let's just double check. Shared code, nothing for feature. All right, so let's write a new unit test for this. And we've got some curious things we can test with this. So let's create a new class. We're going to call this is feature enabled tests. It's capitalized tests. And we're going to put it in a custom directory. We're going to put it in test shared code. All right, now let's just go ahead and mark this as is test. Okay, and we don't need that. We don't need any of these modifiers, in fact. So we'll save that. Now I forgot over here, this is with sharing. I need this to be inherited sharing. Or my coworker Mo is going to get mad at me. Inherited sharing. Good. Okay, so we have a private by default class of tests. We don't need a constructor. And so what we'll do is we'll do at is test. Nope. Static void test platform cache test. The method's called platform cache. So test platform cache positive. Now we can do a positive test here. I want to do the little underscores, but it really doesn't like it when I do that. It gets mad at me, so I'll undo that. Okay, so test positive cache platform. Now, as a note, because somebody may be wondering why are you doing this as a positive test, what's happening here is we enable platform cache by default for Scratch orgs created according to instructions for Apex. And let's rephrase that. Apex recipes enables. Apex recipes Scratch orgs enable platform cache by default. Yep, that'll work. That's better. All right, so we've got this. What we can do now is we can say, do we need any data for this? No, I don't think we do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do test.start test, and I'm going to do Boolean result equals is feature and nope is feature enabled dot platform cache. Like that, I'll do test.stop test. Okay, and then That'll be fine. And then what I can do is system.assert. So we can just do result. And then over here we can do, we expect this to be true. And so if it's not, we expect this to be true if org was set up properly. I'm going to save that. Now we've got an issue in that if you set up a scratch org but you don't follow the instructions, this will give a false positive, or excuse me, a false negative. No, false positive, where it'll tell you that it's there, but it's not, I think. So let's go ahead and run this test. We've got this set up properly, so we'll make sure. Oh no, failed to run. Row. Error authenticating with the refresh token. Really? So when we create this, we call it Apex recipes. That's good. And let's just do sfdx force org list. Come on. So we've got Apex recipes, which is our default, and it doesn't expire until the 26th, which is not today. The 26th is in the future. So open default org. Test your refresh token there. Java font. Excuse me, that worked, which makes me think the refresh token is just fine. Let's see. Close org. I can save. Why wouldn't I be able to run the unit test? That's weird. Let's just try that again. Row. Okay, it still failed. So we'll run our unit test today from the developer console, because that's cool. It's like the 80s version of development. All right, test, new run, is feat, enabled tests, platform cache positive, run. Row. That came back to be true if org cache. Okay, so, whoop. Close that window. Okay, so I'm going to go over here. I'm in setup. I'm going to do platform. I'm even going to spell it right. Maybe. Platform cache. I may need to. I've got a user partition. I've got default. I've got, it's like the deployment fish here going on. Okay. Zero usage. Default. New platform cache partition. Do I need to click this? I don't think so. This is new. Let's try this. Trial request pending. Okay. So this should pass. It's not. And I'm going to give it a new name. We're going to run that. I don't know why that would not. So let's just look at what our is feature enabled is doing here. And we're doing cache.org, get capacity. And I've got an org breakdown. Let's go back into our dev console. And I'm doing the dev console. I mean, I guess I don't have to. Let's not do that dev console. Friends don't let friends use the dev console. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, I'm going to pull this code from is featured enabled. I'm going to do cache.org.get capacity. And I don't want that. I want to do session. I don't want to save it either. That was the wrong thing to do. Highlight, execute anonymous, currently selected text. Execute anonymous, failed to run. Error authenticating. Really? Oop. What did I click? Oh, that's the spell checker. I'm going to close that right now. I don't want to play with that. But if I click on Apex Recipes, I've got Apex Recipes. This is, where's the one that... Let's just, I can authorize. No, I can't do that. Can't reload it because... okay, so somebody here has got a... Okay, we got some questions. Raji says, are there any other use cases other than permission check to use org cache session cache? Can this be used to reduce SOCL query limit if we know the records we're querying and are less or limited? That's a great question. So here, I'm going to give you like my pitch for session cache or org cache. Org cache and session cache, related concepts. Session is related to a particular user. Session, org cache is open to everybody in the org. It's a great thing to use if you've got something that is expensive to calculate that you want to just calculate like once per day. So for instance, I know somebody who's using territory assignments, and their territory assignments might change from day to day, but they're otherwise fairly static. And it takes a while for them to calculate who's assigned to what. It's not just a straight query. So what they do is they drop that into the org cache and they refresh it once a day. All right. So that expensive query happens at like 3 in the morning. Everybody wakes up. They're all East Coast based. So it happens long before they get to work. When they get to work, they only see things related to their territory. Life goes on. Yay, rah. Okay. Otherwise, when they first load that, what was originally a Visualforce page, they were having to calculate that, and then with their territory IDs, then find the cases, etc., that they're responsible for. So by caching that, you know, user X equals these territories, user Y equals these territories, they have that set up once per day. Everybody gets it. Boom. It's great. Bob's your uncle. All right. So we got some other questions here. Does contact fields that email that is updatable depend on the object level permissions or field level? Today I removed field permissions for the field for admin and executed above statement. Still, it was returning true if field don't have read and edit permissions. Run on both developer console and display in Visualforce page. I will need a whole lot more info before I can comment on that. There's just a lot of things that could be in there. Somebody was wondering, Triopticon is wondering, have you covered checking of CRUD permissions when insert and update data? Looking for best practices on the subject. I know you covered with security clause. Oh, Kenneth, this is amazing. Okay, I'm going to show you what we're working with here. It's tied directly to the thing that we're working on, but let's take a slight detour into the code for this. In Apex Recipes, we have a class called CanTheUser, and CanTheUser is specifically for, and if you sort of say it out loud, can the user read an object? Can the user edit an object? Can the user delete an object? And it works with both generic object level type things and for a particular record. So you can say, can the user read a new account? Yes, they can. Can they create a new account? Yes, they can. Can they delete a new account? No. Okay. Or you can say, can the user read this particular account? Yes, they can. Or no, they can't, because it's not shared with them. All right. And so the CanTheUser class has a couple of methods in it. The first one is, can the user... Let me scroll down here. We got some other things in here that we're dealing with today. Can the user CRUD, and then you're going to take an object and you're going to take the permission, and it'll tell you whether or not they can read, create, edit, or delete that particular instance of the S object. So if you pass in new account, you're going to get back the permissions for a brand new account as if they were creating it. Okay. Then you've got, can the user CRUD the particular account, by ID or by the object, and then can they delete this particular one? No, they can't, etc. And then we also have some just convenience methods. So you can say, can the user create, and then pass in an object, and it'll say yes or no, right? So throughout our code base, we've got calls to can the user. So let's do can the user. All right, so I'm going to go into just this one. Okay, that's a documentation markdown file. Let's choose one that's actually code. Markdown, let's do the Sockle recipes. It's not actually in that one. Let's do files recipes. There we go. So here we've got an example where can the user read, and then I'm passing in a content version object. And this is liberally spiced throughout the code base. Anytime we're creating or doing any kind of DML, we're checking this with a few exceptions. And those few exceptions are we doing with security enforced? If we're, querying something, that sort of thing. There are some exceptions, but generally we use this can the user class and library to be able to determine whether or not somebody can do something with that. And are there any ways to test no access to objects or fields without making a custom profile? Yes, there are. You can use the no access or the no access profile. So if you look at some of the unit tests for this, if we do, let's just search the code base for no access. So here we go. We've got, it's the minimum access profile that exists out of the box. You don't have to create anything. The minimum access profile is exactly as it sounds. It's the bare minimum profile permissions for anything. And so what I'm doing here is I'm creating a particular user with that minimum access, and then I'm going to run my test as that minimum access user, and I can turn around and see that I get no access exceptions from things like can the user and from strip inaccessible, that sort of thing. Okay, so that was a lovely side tour. I love that. Great question, Triopticon. Can I share this other can the user and other generic classes to explore? Well, as it turns out, github.com/trailheadapps/apex recipes. And this has everything that is in the code branch this is everything that we've merged. So what we're working on today is the ability to get this code merged in a way that gives us tests and gets everything working the way we want it to. So back over here with our is feature enabled, we're testing that we should be getting test platform cache as positive and that this is working. So we are having some hard time running our tests through Visual Studio Code, and I suspect that has to do with the fact that I just updated my Visual Studio Code extensions to sort of a beta version, and so I'm gonna use the developer console here. So we're gonna do this. I'm gonna try cache.session, and I'm gonna open the log. So execute. A default partition was not found. To cache without partition reference, designate a partition as default. Yes. Do we need to do that? Let's do, this one's default. Let's try this. Cache partition. I think this is what it is, because we can't ship a default partition. Okay, so go back to our dev console. That's got to be a manual step. Okay, that one was a success. Here we go. And let's look for our... Well, I didn't actually assign it to anything, so we're not going to see the... Okay, session. Okay, so we're getting the capacity. That works. So let's look at our test run, new run, and we'll do... is feature enabled tests. We'll just run all of them. Run. Okay, that succeeded. So we've got our, okay, what I'm going to do is, because this could be a false negative, if this fails, and you think it should succeed, ensure you have a default partition specified. We cannot ship a default partition selected in metadata. So you have to do this manually. We expected this to be true if the org was set up properly. True. We're going to do this. We're going to make it a little cleaner. Expect this to be true, but it might fail if you've not set a default partition. Cache partition. I just apparently made Triopticon's day, and I feel like I should stream more. Making people's days right and left. I'm okay with this. All right. Let's see. SF Nerdy, can you please explain the configuration platform cache? SF Nerdy, that's a great question. Let's look at what platform cache is set up. Now, when you have platform cache enabled as an org feature, you have two buckets of cache. You have the platform org cache and the platform session cache. And so you can see here that I've got the partition allocation and the capacity breakdowns, etc. But what happens is you create a cache partition, and the cache partition, think of it as a namespace for your cached elements. So you get a cache partition, in which case we're going to have one called default. I called it default. I labeled it default, but I cannot make it a default cache partition in the metadata. We just can't ship that. You have to go in there and do that manually. And all we had to do that is just edit, and then you see click default partition here. But those default partitions, you're basically saying, okay, I might have a default partition. I might have a partition for opportunities, or you can break it down however you'd like, but it's a bucket or amount of cache. And the reason they let you do that is so that you can say, I want to dedicate a 1 megabyte of cache data for this kind of information and no more. So that when we get to 1.1 megabytes, the oldest thing is kicked out of the cache and we just keep moving on with life. The cache is sort of a rolling key clear out. So if it expires due to time, or if you run out of space, the oldest things are deleted first. Okay, great question there. So we've got a passing unit test with this one. Let's go ahead and create a test that where we know that it should come back and tell us that cache is not available. So to do that, we're going to do is test, and we'll do static void. We'll do test platform cache negative. Is it negative or is it positive? We'll do positive no cache. No cache. Okay. Okay, so we've got this. And the first thing I'm going to do before I off the bat, I'm going to call my is featured enabled dot. Do I not have, where did I put that method, that variable? Private static boolean disable platform cache. Now it's not showing up for me here in my thing, and I'm going to set this equal to false. Sorry, true. Yep, set it to true. And I think this is warning me that that's not visible, and it's not. It's private, but I've tagged it at test visible, which means that it is available inside of our unit test cases. And when our unit tests are executing, we can still externally access this. So we're gonna, okay, back to our unit test here. So we're gonna turn that off. I'm going to do the same basic thing. I'm gonna say test.stop test, and not stop test, Portman. Start test. Thank you. And then I'm gonna say boolean result is equal like that. Yay. Now I'll do test.stop test, and I'm going to do I'm just going to say system.assert not result. So I'm inverting result. I expect this to come back false. And so if not false is true. And expected the @test visible private static class to static variable to override the presence of cache, of org cache. Bum, 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 bum. Save. Okay, time for questions. SF Nerdy, did I answer your question? PS, we showed you where the code is. I think we're doing great on the questions. Not a lot of comments or snide remarks today, which, you know, it's great. We saved. That worked. Okay, and I'm going to run this test. Oh yeah, failed to run. Broke my environment. Let's do test. New run. We're going to run all of them. So we should see both of these tests pass, both that we do have platform cache and that we can selectively disable it. Okay, so we'll run that. And I wonder, let's do this. Let's do something fun here. Let's automate this a bit. So if we do Salesforce Quiddity list, so Quiddity enum, I wonder if the Quiddity can tell us that we are in a test situation where see all data is true. So we've got run test asynchronous, run test deploy, run test sync. Transaction finalizer queuable. I wonder if there's a way to check if we are in @is_test. Because we know if we're in a test. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna phone a friend. Dear Chris, question: is there a Quiddity to tell me that I'm running a test in see all data equals true, and no, my sadness at the truth of that is not a valid Quiddity. All right, we'll ask the one who knows, and my tweets are so fire today. I love it. All right. Okay, so I don't see a Quiddity here off the top, but imagine if we had a Quiddity that says, if you're running in see all data equals true mode, then what we could do, literally, is we could write this in such a way that says, is feature enabled, and then check and set this portion here, return false if the Quiddity is in a see all data equals true environment. And I think that would just be brilliant, because then we don't have to go in and manually set this is equal to true. And so, you know, I am hopeful that we'll get a result for that. Let's just, because that's awesome. Let's just see if we can't Google that. No if unit test is in see all data equals true. Using the see all data, no. Where is it appropriate? Never. I mean, that's not true, but it makes me sad. Demystifying see. Test to see all data. Maybe there's a test method. Salesforce test class. No, I want like the test namespace. Oh, here we go. Test class, Apex Developers Guide. All right. What is Quiddity? Mark, that's a question of the hour. Quiddity it's an old like Sanskrit word. And so if you've never heard it before, no one blames you. But Quiddity it's a word that means the essence of something. And so there's a new class as of the last release where you can go and get the Quiddity of a request, and it'll come back and tell you, in what context, what Quiddity this code is running in. So if you look at the Quiddity enum, it's going to give you one of these back. You can see here that, you know, you've got execute anonymous is going to have an anonymous Quiddity. If you've got one in discoverable login, it's using the discoverable login page. If it's a function callback or @future method, inbound email service, these are all Quiddities, and you can use that to runtime inspect your code and act in different ways based on the Quiddity. A few weeks back in the archives, you should find a session with Shane McLaughlin, and he and I did an episode where we took Quiddity and we made our code safer by disallowing certain portions of code to be run when their Quiddity is from an untrusted source. So if it may contain user input, we just said you can't run it. There's some Quiddity recipes, and you should totally look at those in the Apex recipes repository. I'm looking at the test class, though, to see if we have a way to say, is running test, we can do, okay, load data, set, start test, top test, test install, test sandbox, test uninstall. I would like to know if I can see whether or not a test is running in see all data mode. I don't think we can do it right now, but that would be super cool. In fact, it's so super cool that I'm going to write down here in the bright, shining future, shining future, refactor this with an automate. Oh, so Chris just weighed in with a grand total of 1 word. He said nope. So replace this with a automated way of determining if a test is running with @see all data equals true. Let's see. He's pointing out it's very true. I hadn't thought about this. You could have multiple tests running, some of which would be see all data and some of which wouldn't. But if there's a way to get that, that would be really cool. That'd be really cool. Okay, so let me save that here. We've got our tests. We were running our tests in the developer console. Don't forget. Oh, look, it passed. Look at that. Okay, let's see. Is feature enabled, and test this. Test platform cache. Positive no cache. Look, it worked. So we know that we can override platform cache when we need, which is good, and we know that we can test when we have platform cache. So is feature enabled is everything that we want right now. And we've just saved this, so we should be good there. I'm going to close down my Apex anonymous Apex class. We've got our tests for that. Let's look at, do we have comments? Because comments are an important thing. We don't have things like a comment for this. So let's do that. This method determines if platform cache is enabled for this org. Note, fail-safes to false, which is true because we're defining cache available is equal to false by default, and we're only changing it if we can pull the capacity. So that is a truthitude. We are defining that as false. Note, allows override by setting disable. Let's fully qualify it. Is feature enabled dot disable platform cache equal to true. Use this in test contexts where cache is not available, like when you have to use see all data equals true. True. Okay. I got some people here. Raj says there might be a way. Select body from Apex class where class name equals current class name, and look for see all data true in the class body. That would work for classes, but not individual test methods. And I want to pull away from defining an entire class as see all data equals true. Plus, that's a SOCL query just to do that. And I don't want to introduce that outside of a session, outside of a test environment. No, I'm gonna follow up with the Apex team to see if there's a way that we can work that in the bright shining future. So we've added a comment for this, the return. We've talked about the guard here. I'm gonna put those two together. One thing I've noticed in other languages that I'm going to start adopting is that whenever you have a guard statement, you immediately have an empty line after it, so that there's a logical break between, okay, I've failed out of this method, and what you're doing, and the rest of it. So we're going to have cache equal false. That's good. Try, catch. Okay. I'm also not a big fan of this, but I wonder if there's a, we've got our test logs. Let's see if we can't. A default partition was not found. Let's look at this one and see if we can't open the raw log and figure out what kind of, it's an execution exception. Look at that. Look at that. Okay, so we're going to replace exception with execution exception. Save that. Now we're specific in our exceptions. This is great. And we've sort of fail-safes to false. Okay, I'm going to put in here, nope, it failed to run. Why? Invalid type execution exception? Ruh-roh. It's right there. Execution, okay, we'll just do execution exception. Did we find an exception that is not specific to Apex? Apex. Nope, not helpful. Stack exchange, that might be helpful. What can we capture that with? Message to, is that one we cannot pull directly? Yeah, I'm gonna go with we can't do that directly, so we're gonna leave this. We could try runtime exception. Of course, we're gonna have to find a way to make this fail. Why are we getting this squiggly here? Oh, okay. Come on. Failed to push. What do we say here? Invalid type runtime exception. Okay, we're just going to change it to exception. Leave it at exception. I'm not happy about that, but I don't want to mess around with it right now. We've only got 12 minutes left here. Let's see. Obsessive Nerdy is suggesting Quiddity and an extra layer of security. We could check if we're in a unit test, and we could then check to see with a SOCL query if the current unit test contains, but that's not tied to the individual method. You could also just try running a connect API method and look for unsupported exception. If there's no exception, you have see all data equals true. Raj, now that's an interesting idea. We would still have to manually call that code. That doesn't exist in a way that we could just run. I'm trying to make this seamless and just sort of, it just works because that makes me happy, honestly. That's why. I'm trying to think if there's a way we could insert that into is the feature enabled. We could insert this into, you know what, let's prototype it. So we'll do private static boolean is see all data true. All right, so we'll do boolean see all data is equal to false. We'll do false here, and then we're going to say running a connect API method. Connect API, so that's, I could try posting to Chatter. I mean, this is probably possible, but it's kind of hacktastic. But hacktastic is fun, and it can be useful. So see all data equals true. We're going to say return see. I like guards. If not test that is running test. So if not running a test, return see all data. All right. If, so that's a guard, so we'll do an empty line. If see, okay, so make a connect API call. Let's find one. Salesforce connect API. Connect API namespace. Can you see custom settings in an org with see all data true? That's a good question. Can you see custom settings in see all true? Apex test must use see all data true to see existing custom setting data. Oh, so that's if it's already, if you want to use existing custom settings. Okay, so I'm going to go forward with the connect API. So what connect API class can I call that will fail in a exception where see all data true? Let's do field service, no. Knowledge, no. Personalization, no. Records class, routing class, survey topics, user profile. User profile data populates the profile page. Let's try this. Connect API dot get user profile. Let's look at this. We can do internal or null. Yeah, let's try that. Okay, so here's our code. If connect API dot get user profile. Is that right? Get user profile. Yep, community ID, user ID. So we're gonna do we'll do internal, and we'll do user dot get user. Is it the user? It's been a while since I grabbed the user dot get all. Nope. Org. Nope. 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 Really? I could have sworn there was a user class. Object reference for Salesforce and Lightning platform. Oh, that's going to be the... Oh, wait, there was. I can use my method from Chatter session a few days ago. Yeah, but that's in a branch I don't actually have access to at the moment. Nope. Nope. Fields dot ID. I feel like I'm missing something. Apex get current user ID. I love Google. All right, and we have 6 minutes left. User info. There we go. I was close. It's not user, it's user info. And that makes sense because user is, you know, a very specific object. So we'll do that. And okay, so if we can pull this and we don't get a unsupported exception, we have a, there is no exception, we have CL data equals true. Okay, so what we're going to do is, because that might throw an exception, we're going to try, and we're going to say run this, and if that succeeds, if there's no exception, we have CL data, then we'll do C all data equals true. And then we're going to catch, and we're going to try, it says unsupported exception. Unsupported operation exception. Unsupported exception. Unsupported exception. UE. And then we don't actually have to, this is a no op. We just want to recover from it. Okay, so we'll save that. Here, what we're going to do is we're going to go into our feature enabled tests, and we're going to do this one. We're going to do @is test C all data equals true. And we'll do static void test SC all data determination. It is unsupported operation exception. Okay, that's good to know. So is feature enabled, connect API. What is this? Why does it not like that? Why like the connect API? Did I misspell it? I probably miss. Connect API. Nope, that's right. Missing return statement. That's fair. Return C all data. Okay. No op there. It's an unsupported exception. It's an unsupported operation exception. Okay, we'll save that. You should work. Variable does not exist. Connect API. Let's connect. Oh, is it connect API dot user. There we go. That'll probably work better. Thanks, Raj. That's great. Saving. Woo, woo. Saving. Fail. Okay. This does not work. It does not like this. It says string. It doesn't like string. Wanna bet? Get user profile. Type string. It's right there. Okay, 2 minutes left. We've still got to find a way to get this to save. Method. Okay, let's try this. Maybe there is a way for me to do it this way. .get. That's the tab 9 version, which is the same as my version. Okay. Get user profile. Let's see. Anybody else have any other questions so I can distract and wave my hands around the fact that I don't know why this is failing? So, questions, comments, Snyder marks, great time for them right now. Connect API.user profile. Get user profile. Oh, you know what? I bet you that's... Is that going to give me an ID instead of a string? Let's try that. Yes, I know it's an empty block. That's why I called it no op. Come on. Maybe? No. Method does not exist, or incorrect signature. Why do I have 2 of these showing up? From the type connect API.user profile. Well, the documentation says that it's right. See if there's another one in here we can pick on. Get user profile. Get user profile. Yeah, okay. Delete photo, delete set. Maybe we don't want the user profiles class. I thought that would be user profiles methods. No, we just looked at that. Okay, connect to API enums. Oh, maybe we can just hit an enum. Let's try that. That's an enum, so we'd probably need a way to execute that. All right, we are at the time for the day. I will keep trying to figure this out, and we will get this merged into main, and then you can all explore the joys here.